Hello, we're going to be working on exercise 16.6, and this is one of those exercises, folks, that the author does have a solution provided, and I'm guessing that he also has a video provided for it too. So you can watch his video or you can watch mine, but I'm going to build this little application here, and basically we're going to set a text field's properties for the horizontal alignment and column size dynamically. And that's what we're going to accomplish. So it's a pretty simple little thing. It's just a bunch of user interface controls that will interact with each other and move some text around. All right, so let's jump over to Eclipse and go ahead and create our new class file. So I'm in my source folder in my chapter 16 project file, and I'm going to name this x16_6. Go ahead and click Finish. We're going to do all our little routine tasks here. So we're going to write extends, application, control space to add our library. We're going to come back over to the class name here, put the cursor at the end, control space. Oh, no, actually, let's just hover on that one. That's how you do it. And it says add unimplemented method, so we need that start method. I'm also going to jump back to one of my previous applications here and grab that main method to throw at the bottom. So let's do that. Start right down here. So we got a good start. The other thing we're definitely going to need is the scene and the stage. So let's just grab that right off the bat and drop that right in at the bottom of the start method. Now we know that these things will probably be different, but I'm not worried about those right now. We should probably change this to the right number though. Go ahead and do a Control S to save it. Next thing I want to do is I want to go back to the book here and just kind of give it a look, and I'm trying to figure out what would be really a good way to organize this information. Now from what I'm seeing, we kind of have two rows, right? So each one of those rows could be an H box. That's a simple approach. And then I could take that H box, and we can try a different approach this time, and we can put those inside of a V box, right? So the H box will have horizontal components, and the V box will have vertical components, which will be the two H boxes. Okay, different approach than what we've normally done. So I'm going to actually go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to do is that kind of like working from the bottom up here once again, is I'm actually going to create the V box to put the horizontal boxes into. I'm just going to call it V box with a lowercase v, just because it's easy to remember. And we'll just say new V box. And I'm going to put in 5 as a padding or spacing thing there. You notice V box is underlined, so I'm going to control space to bring up the libraries here and add the Java FX library that goes with. I also have already kind of predetermined that I'm going to build a bunch of H boxes to throw in here. Okay, now I need to kind of think about that a little bit before I just go rashly acting, because I was kind of throwing out the ideas and not thinking about them too much. All right, well, for sure, one thing that I'm going to do, I'm not really sure what size the window is going to be at this point, so I'm not really worried about like the width and the height. But I do know that one way or another that V box is going to be the main structure that ends up on the scene. So let's just throw that in there right now and kind of get that out of the way. And then I really kind of need to go back to that visual description here in the book. And I'm looking really carefully at this, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to go inside of what. To me, this label and text box certainly should go into one H box. That just makes sense to me. Okay, let's start with the easy stuff first and get that out of the way. So I'm going to just jump up right up to the top here of the start method, and I'm going to actually build the structure first. So let's build an H box, and I'm going to kind of name it the same way, lowercase h, and just call it new H box. Once again, just 5 pixels of a little bit of spacing around it. All right. We need a library for that, so let's go ahead and add it. All right. And then we need to build the stuff that's going to go into the H box, which is going to be a label and a text field. Now we can do this a couple different ways. So one thing, of course, that makes sense, if we're adding a text field, let's just go ahead and just type in a text field, control space to add the library. That's because I don't have a semicolon in there yet. Let's just call it TF for text field, and I don't know. I'm finding it hard to pick a name other than text field for it, so that's what I'm going to call it. And let's just call it new. What is it? It's a text field, and empty parens for right now. All right. Now we got to think about how this is going to lay out into the H box. So what I'm thinking here is the H box itself, now that it's named. And you know what? I'm going to have more than one H box, right? Why don't I call this H box 1 instead of just H box? Because I think in the long run that's going to help me. And let's just make sure that first it's aligned to center. So we're going to do a POS center in all caps. Of course, that POS requires this library here. Of course, there we go. Typo. And since we're doing all this rigmarole, may as well get the children, the stuff that's going inside, and then we're going to do an add all. And what are we throwing in there? Well, certainly we're throwing in the text field, but we also need to throw a label in front of it. The label is not something we're going to mess with, so I'm actually going to instantiate it on the fly right inside this add all statement. And yes, you can do that. And I can even go as far as naming it here with text right on the fly inside the structure. The second parameter is going to be the text field that I created, called text field with a little TF in front of it. And let's throw a semicolon at the end there and call that done. Label looks like it's going to need an import here, so I'm going to hover. And we're pulling in the JavaFX libraries for this. Now that text field, I want to be really clear as to what we're trying to do here, because this is kind of weird, right? So we want to be able to take that text and make it left, center, or right, right? And then we're also looking at something called column size. So what the heck does that mean? Yeah, what's the column then? The text field. And is the number that we put in, is that relative to the pixels or characters? See the conundrum there? It's going to take a little bit of playing with this. So really what we're kind of messing with is a couple different parameters. So I'm going to look at all the text field things that we're going to do. So I'm going to start by experimenting a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually drop in this code here where I'm going to take that text field and set its position to bottom right. I don't know, just because. I could make it bottom left or top center or something like that, but I just want to position it in a certain way. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that text field should start out with a particular column size. And there actually is a method called preferred column count And I'm just kind of picking an arbitrary value of 13 because I see that the text in there is a certain number of characters. I want to probably put in a few more than what is already there so it doesn't get too small. And then I want to have the ability to adjust that somehow, really through a method call like this. Okay. We have another text field that we're going to have to end up adding, but I think if everything here is okay thus far, we should be able to start getting some stuff up on the screen by just simply getting this VBox to display some of it for us. So let's do a VBox, get children, and then let's do an add all. And what are we going to throw in there? HBox1, right? So let's go ahead and save this and just hit the run button and see what comes up on screen. Well, we did get a label with a box. And you can see where my cursor is flashing in it. It's flashing on the right-hand side. And I can type in it. No problem. That's all we can really do with it right now. But that part seems okay-ish to me. All right. Next thing we need to do is take another look at what we're trying to build. So we got these two parts taken care of. We need to do the radio buttons, but we also have another label and text field here that I see. And it seems like, we could do this a couple different ways. And I'll tell you what, the way that I'm thinking about this is I'm thinking that this is a horizontal box. And originally I was thinking this whole thing is a horizontal box. But now I'm thinking I'll do one horizontal box for these and one horizontal box for those. All right. Since this one will be really similar to this one, and this is what's driving my thought process here, I can almost copy all my code and just make it this really quick and easy. So that's kind of my thinking. So if this is HBox1, that'll be HBox2, and this will be HBox3. So I'm going to build HBox3 right now. And let's do that here-ish. And, you know, I'm being really silly about this because I can almost literally copy and paste this, right? Change it to HBox3. I'm ignoring all the errors that are going to pop up because I know I'm like work in progress right now. And that one, the text on it says what? Column size. So instead of text field, oops. Right? And then I'm going to be throwing a text field, but it's not going to be this one. So the other thing I need to do is make another text field. So I'm going to copy all that. And this is the kind of efficiencies you guys need to try to find when you're writing stuff. Find structures that repeat and leverage that. And I guess that what we could call this one, instead of text field, which isn't very meaningful, we could call it, what did I call it last time? You were looking at my old code. And I called it last time preferred column size. So pref col size. That works for me. So then I want to use that name in these positions. I'll just use the same settings. They seem to work okay. The only thing is do I really want to make my HBox3 like this? I mean, do I really want to set it to be 13? Or could I go with something much smaller, like maybe 3 characters? Because I don't know if you guys are catching on to that, but columns are a number of characters. I can't envision that I'd want to make it more than like a 3-digit value, so I'm just going to go with 3. Now I'm going to take this text field name and paste it into my HBox 3. All right, so I created that. Now I got another conundrum I'm thinking about. Okay, so I'm going to put my text, my label, and my text box in one HBox. I'm going to put my radio buttons in another HBox, and now I'm thinking I'm going to get them all in the same line. Uh-oh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to encapsulate one more layer. Now I'm going to make an HBox 4. You guys are like, he's going HBox crazy. HBox 4, which is going to hold HBox 2 and 3. See my trick? Okay. So it's the same trick we use in HTML. It's called encapsulation. You encapsulate stuff, and then you have actually more control over it. I'm doing 5 as kind of like a standard for spacing. And actually, since these are 2 HBoxes, maybe I'll bump that up to like 15. So those 2 HBoxes have a little more space between each other. And then what am I going to put inside of HBox 4? Well, the one thing that I'll do is I'll copy this center alignment thing. I think that's always kind of a good practice, except we'll change that to a 4. And then we're also going to do the get children thing. Of course, I will be changing the values, so this will be a 4 here. And then what are we going to throw in there? Well, we know that one of them is going to be something here that we don't have yet. Right? And it doesn't really like that I'm putting a comment in, but that's what I'm doing right now. And certainly one of them is going to be HBox 3, right? The one we just created. The other one is going to be the radio buttons. And then ultimately, in the VBox, I'll have the HBox 1 and the HBox 4, which holds 2 and 3. You guys catching this now? See my quirky logic, if you even want to call it that? Now that one's not color coding, and I think that's because this is still incomplete here. So I'm not worried about that right now. So let's go ahead and build the radio buttons that are going to go in HBox 2. So I got text field into HBox 1, text field into HBox 3, which means I'll probably put the radio buttons up here just so that the HBoxes are in order. That's kind of my thinking. Oh. Hi, Brian. Hello. Couple more things, because I'm looking at like the stuff I did here where I did my set alignment. Did I do that? Oh yeah, I did. Okay, I did. Okay, never mind. I did do that stuff. All right, I thought maybe I forgot to. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to create the HBox 2 right away. So HBox 2, which is a new HBox, and let's just use 5 for spacing, our typical thing. And then may as well set alignment on it right away, since we're doing the work. Switch that to a 2. And then let's start adding our radio buttons. So the radio buttons, we have a left, right, center. So here we go. I'm just going to create a new radio button, add the library, and I'm going to go RB left, right? No, correct. No, I wasn't even trying to be funny. It just kind of happens. And we're going to repeat this a couple more times. So we're going to have a right. Obviously, the last one's going to be right. And then the middle one's going to be center, center. So now that I have those radio buttons created and they're labeled, now I need to put them into the HBox. So HBox 2, we're going to do a get children, we're going to add all, and then we're going to add each one of those. So we're going to do RB left, RB right. Oop, we have to do center next, don't we? So radio button, center, semicolon at the end. So all that stuff's inside there. And now here, we can put our missing H box, which is H box 2. And hopefully they all recognize. All right, we have enough already that we can run this now and take a look. So do a Control S to save, hit the play button, and let's take a look. Okay, not the prettiest thing, but you know what? Not too bad either, right? All the stuff is there. It's reasonably laid out, and we can type into the text fields. And that works for me. Okay. So now we need it to actually be able to do the stuff, right? All right. We know with the radio buttons, because we've had experience with these, right, that we can do a set on action and then change our alignment from like left to right to center. So that's what we're going to do. Let's do that radio buttons first. They're pretty simple. We'll do that underneath the scene and stage. So here we go. Radio button left, set on action, drop in our lambda, and go straight to the action. No curly braces here. It's one statement. That's really just a change in a text field property. And so what are we changing? We're changing TF, text, FIELD, and we're setting its alignment to position. And so I make sure it goes left. I'm actually going to choose baseline left. That's what I did last time, and it seemed to work perfectly. It's thrown in that extra semicolon here, which I'm not liking. So before I do anything else, I'm going to save this. I'm going to run it and see if that one works. So let's type in some text, and I'm going to hit left, and it worked. You see that? All right. So now the other two are just extrapolations of this one. So they're just going to take moments to drop in. Let's just paste them both in right away. So we are going to have a center. We're going to have a right. And there's a center. There's a right. Let's run it again, test them. Some text. There's our left. There's our right. There's our center. Woohoo, right? Okay. Now what about this other piece? We need to be able to take whatever number that we're typing into that preferred column count, have it be read as an integer, so we have to parse it, convert it, and then immediately react to it after it's typed in. All right? So we're going to write another little event handler down here, and this time we're reacting to the, what did I call that? Pref call size. Is that what I said? That's a mouthful. Dot. Well, it's not recognizing it. Did I do it wrong here? Pref column notes, right? Text field. All right, I'm just going to assume it's going to work, even though it's flagging right now. I don't like it, but what are you going to do? And then I'm going to do my set on, yeah, see, I'm not liking it. See, when it doesn't, like, behave like that, then it makes you start to worry that, you know, what's going on with my IntelliSense? Where's all my helpful tools? Pref, call, size, there we go. Set on That makes me feel so much better when it does that. There's our lambda. And then here, what are we actually changing? And do I need curly brackets here? You know what? I'm going to say yes, I do, because I can think that it's going to be more than one action. So I'm going to throw the curly brackets in and split it. And here's why. Because I am going to set, okay, the text field and then what part of this am I setting? The preferred column count, that one. And what am I going to set it to? Now that's where the tricky part gets in, because I'm going to set it to whatever is typed in. But in order to convert it, I do have to run this. I have to run integer dot parse int, and then in the parentheses, I'm going to read in the value from which text field? The pref col size, by getting its text property like that. That's a whole lot of parentheses there, but that's the correct syntax on it. So I'm setting the column count by parsing the data that I'm getting from the text field, reading it in, converting it to an integer, and then going with it. All right, so let's see if this works with any luck. All right, so I'm going to type in, I don't know, 12 characters. Let's center them. And then I'm going to set my column size to something small. Notice I typed in a number and nothing happened. When is something going to happen? The moment I leave that field, right? Or is 10 not going to show it? Do I have to do something like 2? I mean, what do I have to do? Like, beg? Or I have to press enter? So enter is implied. It's working, folks. That's 16.6. We're going to call that a wrap.